For 2 or 3 minutes he stood looking round him while Mary watched him, and then he began to walk about softly, even more lightly than Mary had walked the first time she had found herself inside the 4 walls. His eyes seemed to be taking in everything. The grey trees with the grey creepers climbing over them and hanging from their branches, the tangle on the wall and among the grass, the evergreen alcoves with the stone seats and tall flower urns standing in them. "I never thought I'd see this place. Did you know about it?" She'd spoken aloud, and he made a sign to her. "We must talk low, or someone will hear us and wonder what there is to do in here. Oh, I forgot. Did you know about the garden? Martha told me there was one as no one went inside. Us used to wonder what it was like. Hey, the nests will be here come springtime. It'll be the safest nesting place in England. No one ever coming near, and tangles of trees and roses to build in. I wonder all the birds up north don't build here." Mistress Mary put her hand on his arm again without knowing it. "Will there be roses? Can you tell? I thought perhaps they were all dead." No, not them, not all of them. Look here." He stepped over to the nearest tree, an old one with grey lichen all over its bark. But, upholding a curtain of tangled sprays and branches, he took a thick knife out of his pocket and opened one of the blades. "There's lots of dead wood as ought to be cut out. And there's a lot of old wood, but it made some new last year. This here's a new bit." He touched a shoot which looked brownish-green instead of hard, dry grey. Mary touched it herself in an eager, reverent way. "That one? Is that one quite alive? Quite?" "It's as wick as you or me." Mary remembered Martha had told her that wick meant alive, or lively. "Oh, I'm glad it's wick. I want them all to be wick. Let's go round the garden and count how many wick ones there are." She quite panted with eagerness, and Dickon was as eager as she was. They went from tree to tree and bush to bush. Dickon carried his knife in his hand and showed her things which she thought wonderful. "They've run wild, but the strongest ones have thrived. The delicatest ones have died out, but the others have growed and spread till they're a wonder. See here, a body might think this was dead wood, but I don't believe it. Down to the root. I'll cut it low down and see." He knelt, and with his knife cut the lifeless-looking branch through, not far above the earth. "There, I told thee so. There's green in that wood yet. Look at it." Mary was down on her knees before he spoke, gazing with all her might. "When it looks a bit greenish and juicy like that, it's wick. When the inside is dry and breaks away easy, like this bit I cut here off, well, that's done for. There's a big root here as all this live wood sprung out of, and if the old wood is cut from it and dug around and took care of, there'll be a fountain of roses here come summer." They went from bush to bush and tree to tree. He was very strong and clever with his knife, and knew how to cut the dry and dead wood away, and could tell when an unpromising bough or twig had still green life in it. In the course of half an hour, Mary thought she could tell too, and when he cut through a lifeless-looking branch, she would cry out joyfully under her breath when she caught sight of the least shade of moist green. The spade and hoe and fork were very useful. He showed her how to use the fork while he dug down into the roots of the spade and stirred the earth and let the air in. They were working industriously round one of the biggest standard roses when he caught sight of something which made him utter an exclamation of surprise. "Why, who did that?" It was one of Mary's own little clearings around the pale green points. "I did it." "What? I thought that didn't know nothing about gardening." I don't. But they were so little, and the grass was so thick and strong, they looked as if they had no room to breathe, so I made a place for them. I didn't even know what they were. Well, now, that was right. A gardener couldn't have told it better. They'll grow now like Jack's beanstalk. They're crocuses and snowdrops, and these here is narcissus. And over there, that's daffodillies. Hey, they're going to be a sight. That's done a lot of work for such a little wench. I'm growing fatter, and I'm growing stronger. I used to always be tired. When I dig, I'm not tired at all. I like to smell the earth when it's turned up. It's rare good for thee. There's naught as nice as smelling a good clean earth, except the smell of fresh growing things when the rain falls on them. I get out on the moor as many times a day as I can when it's raining, and I lie under a bush and I listen to the soft swish of drops on the heather, and I just sniff and sniff. My nose end fair quivers like a rabbit's, mother says. Do you never catch cold? No, not me. I never catch cold since I was born. I wasn't brought up nesh enough. I've chased about the moor in all weathers, same as the rabbits does. Mother says I've sniffed too much fresh air for a 12-year-old to ever get the sniffling of a cold. I'm as tough as a white-thorn knobstick. He was working all the time he was talking, and Mary was following him and helping him with her fork or trowel. There's a lot of work to do here, he said once, looking about quite exultantly. Will you come again and help me do it? I'm sure I can help too. I can dig and pull up weeds and do whatever you tell me. Oh, do come, Dickon. Come every day if I wants me, rain or shine. It's the best fun I've had in my life. Shut up here, waking up a garden. If you will come, if you will help me to make it alive, I don't know what I'll do. What could you do for a boy like that? I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll get fat, and I'll get as hungry as a young fox, and I'll learn how to talk to the robin, same as I do. Yay, we're going to have such a lot of fun. He began to walk about, looking up at the trees and the walls and the bushes with a thoughtful expression. I wouldn't want to make it look like a gardener's garden, all clipped and spick and span, would you? It's nicer like this, with things running wild and swinging and catching hold of each other. Oh yes, don't let's make it tidy. It wouldn't be a secret garden if it was tidy. Aye, it's a secret garden, sure enough. But it does seem like someone besides the robin must have been in it, since it was shut up 10 years ago. But the door was locked and the key was buried. No one could get in. That's true. It's a queer place. Seems to me as if there's been a bit of pruning, you see, done here and there, later than 10 years ago. How could there have been? Aye, how could it, with the door locked and the key buried? Mistress Mary always felt that however many years she lived, she would never forget that first morning when her garden began to grow. Of course it did seem to begin to grow for her that morning. When Dickon began to clear places to plant seeds, she remembered what Basil had sung at her when he wanted to tease her. Are there flowers that look like bells? Lilies of the valley does, and there's cranberry bells, and campanulas. Let's plant some. Oh, there's lilies of the valley here already, I saw them. They'll be growed too close, we'll have to separate them, but there's plenty. The other ones take 2 years to bloom from seed, but I can bring you some bits of plants from our cottage garden. Why does they want them? Then Mary told him about Basil and his brothers and sisters in India, and of how she had hated them, and of their calling her Mistress Mary quite contrary. They used to dance round and sing at me. They sang, Mistress Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? With silver bells and cockle shells and marigolds all in a row. I just remembered it. It made me wonder if there were really flowers like silver bells. She frowned a little and gave her trowel a rather spiteful dig into the earth. I wasn't as contrary as they were. But Dickon laughed. Eh, he said, and as he crumpled the rich black soil, she saw he was sniffing up the scent of it. It doesn't seem to be need for no one to be contrary when there's flowers and such like this around, and such lots of friendly wild things running about, making homes for themselves or building nests and singing and whistling, does there? Dickon, you're as nice as Martha said you were. I like you, and you make the 5th person. I never thought I should like 5 people. Dickon sat up on his heels as Martha did when she was polishing the grate. He did look funny and delightful, Mary thought, with his round blue eyes and red cheeks and happy-looking turned-up nose. "Only 5 folks likes. Who's the other 4? Your mother and Martha, and the Robin and Ben Weatherstaff." Dickon laughed so that he was obliged to stifle the sound by putting his arm over his mouth. "I know thou thinks I'm a queer lad, but I think that the queerest little lass I ever saw." Then Mary did a strange thing. She leaned forward and asked him a question she had never dreamed of asking anyone before. And she tried to ask it in Yorkshire because that was his language, and in India a native was always pleased if you knew his speech. "Does thou like me?" "Eh? Oh, that I does. I likes thee wonderful, and so does Robin, I do believe." "That's 2 then. That's 2 for me." And then they began to work harder and more joyfully. Mary was startled and sorry when she heard the big clock in the courtyard strike the hour for her midday dinner. "I shall have to go, and you'll have to go too, won't you?" "I my dinner's easy to carry round with me. Mother always lets me put a bit of something in my pocket." He picked up his coat from the grass and brought out of a pocket a lumpy little bundle tied up in a quite clean, coarse, blue and white handkerchief. It held 2 thick pieces of bread, with a slice of something laid between them. "It's oftenest naught but bread, but I've got a fine slice of fat bacon with it today." Mary thought it looked a queer dinner, but he seemed ready to enjoy it. "Run on and get the victuals. I'll be done with mine first, so I'll see there's more work to do before I start home. I'll call the Robin up and give him the rind of a bacon to peck at. He likes a bit of fat wonderful." Mary could scarcely bear to leave him. Suddenly it seemed as if he might be a sort of wood fairy who might be gone when she came into the garden again. He seemed too good to be true. She went slowly halfway to the door in the wall, and then stopped and went back. "Whatever happens, you would never tell." His poppy-coloured cheeks were distended with his first big bite of bread and bacon, but he managed to smile encouragingly. "If thou was a missel thrush and showed me where thy nest was, dost thou think I'd tell anyone? Not me. Thou's as safe as a missel thrush." And she was quite sure she was. Mary ran so fast that she was rather out of breath when she reached her room. Her hair was ruffled on her forehead and her cheeks were bright pink. Her dinner was waiting on the table, and Martha was waiting near it. "Thou's a bit late. Where's thou been?" "I've seen Dickon." "Well, I knew he'd come. How does thou like him?" I think he's beautiful." "Well, he's the best lad as ever was born, but I've never thought he was handsome. His nose turns up too much." "I like it to turn up. And his eyes is so round. Though they are a nice colour. I like them round, and they're exactly the colour of the sky over the moor." "Well, Mother says he made them that colour with always looking up at the birds and the clouds. But he has got a big mouth, hasn't he, though, now?" "I love his big mouth. I wish mine were just like it." Martha chuckled delightedly. "It'd look rare and funny in eye bit of a face, but I knowed it would be that way when I saw him. How did I like the seeds and the garden tools?" "How did you know he brought them?" "Eh? Well, I never thought of his not bringing them. He'd be sure to bring them if they were in Yorkshire. He's a trusty lad." Mary was afraid that she might begin to ask difficult questions, but she did not. She was very much interested in the seeds and garden tools, and there was only one moment when Mary was frightened. This was when she began to ask where the flowers were to be planted. "Who did thou ask about it?" "I haven't asked anyone yet." "Oh, well, I wouldn't ask the head gardener. He's too grand, Mr. Roach is. I've never seen him. I've only seen the under gardeners and Ben Weatherstaff. Ah, now, if I was you, I'd ask Ben Weatherstaff. He's not half as bad as he looks, for all he's so crabbed. Mr. Craven lets him do what he likes, because he was here when Mrs. Craven was alive, and he used to make her laugh. She liked him. Perhaps he'd find you a corner somewhere out of the way." "If it was out of the way, and no one wanted it, no one could mind me having it, could they?" "Well, no, there wouldn't be no reason. You wouldn't do no harm." Mary ate her dinner as quickly as she could, and when she rose from the table, she was going to run to her room to put on her hat again, But Martha stopped her. "I've got something to tell you. I thought I'd let you eat your dinner first. Mr. Craven came back this morning, and I think he wants to see you." Mary turned quite pale. "Oh, why? Why? He didn't want to see me when I came. I heard Pitcher say he didn't." "Well, Mrs. Medlock says it's because of Mother. She was walking to Thwaite village and she met him. She's never spoke to him before, but Mrs. Craven had been to our cottage 2 or 3 times. He'd forgot, but Mother hadn't, and, well, she made bold to stop him. I don't know what she said to him about you, but she said something. Something has put him in the mind to see you before he goes away again tomorrow." "Is he going away tomorrow? I'm so glad." "He's going for a long time. He mayn't come back till autumn or winter. He's going to travel to foreign parts. He's always doing it." I'm glad. If he did not come back until winter, or even autumn, there would be time to watch the secret garden come alive. Even if he found out then and took it away from her, she would have had that much at least. "What do you think he wants to see me for?" She didn't finish the sentence because the door opened and Mrs. Medlock walked in. She had on her best black dress and cap, and her collar was fastened with a large brooch with a picture of a man's face on it. It was a coloured photograph of Mr. Medlock, who died years ago, and she always wore it when she dressed up. She looked nervous and excited. "Your hair's rough. Go and brush it. Martha, help her slip on her best dress. Mr. Craven sent me to bring her to him in his study." All the pink left Mary's cheeks. Her heart began to thump, and she felt herself changing into a stiff, plain, silent child again. She did not even answer Mrs. Medlock, but turned and walked into her bedroom, followed by Martha. She said nothing while the dress was changed and her hair brushed, and after she was quite tidy, she followed Mrs. Medlock down the corridor in silence. What was there for her to say? She was obliged to go and see Mr. Craven, and he would not like her, and she would not like him. She knew what he would think of her. She was taken to a part of the house she had not been in before. At last Mrs. Medlock knocked at a door, and when someone said, "Come in," they entered the room together. A man was sitting in an armchair before the fire, and Mrs. Medlock spoke to him. "This is Mary, sir." "You can go and leave her here. I will ring for you when I want you to take her away." When she went out and closed the door, Mary could only stand waiting, a plain little thing twisting her thin hands together. She could see that the man in the chair was not so much a hunchback as a man with high, rather crooked shoulders, and he had black hair streaked with white. He turned his head over his high shoulders and spoke to her. "Come here." Mary went. He was not ugly. His face would have been handsome if it had not been so miserable. He looked as if the sight of her worried and fretted him, and did not know what in the world to do with her. "Are you well?" "Yes." "Do they take good care of you?" "Yes." He rubbed his forehead fretfully as he looked her over. "You are very thin." "I am getting fatter," Mary answered, in what she knew was her stiffest way. What an unhappy face he had! His black eyes seemed as if they scarcely saw her, as if they were seeing something else, and he could hardly keep his thoughts upon her. "I forgot you. How could I remember you? I intended to send you a governess or nurse or someone of that sort, but I forgot." Please. The lump in her throat choked her. "What do you want to say?" "I'm too big for a nurse, and please don't make me have a governess yet." He rubbed his forehead again and stared at her. "That was what the Sowerbury woman said." Is she Martha's mother?" "Yes, I think so." "She knows about children. She has 12. She knows." "What do you want to do?" "I want to play out of doors," Mary answered, hoping that her voice did not tremble. "I never liked it in India. It makes me hungry here, and I am getting fatter." "Mrs. Sowerbury said it would do you good. Perhaps it will. She thought you'd better get stronger before you had a governess." "It makes me feel strong when I play and the wind comes over the moor." "Where do you play?" "Everywhere. Martha's mother sent me a skipping rope. I skip and run, and I look about to see if things are beginning to stick up out of the earth. I don't do any harm. Don't look so frightened. You could not do any harm, a child like you. You may do what you like. Mary put her hand to her throat, because she was afraid he might see the excited lump which jumped into it. She came a step nearer to him. May I? Her anxious little face seemed to worry him more than ever. Don't look so frightened. Of course you may. I'm your guardian. I am a poor one for any child, but I cannot give you time or attention. I'm too ill and wretched and distracted. But I wish you to be happy and comfortable. I don't know anything about children. Mrs. Medlock is here to see that you have all you need. I sent for you today because Mrs. Sowerby said I ought to see you. Her daughter had talked about you. She thought you needed fresh air and freedom and running about. She knows all about children, said Mary again, in spite of herself. Yes, well, she ought to. I thought her rather bold to stop me on the moor, but she said Mrs. Craven had been kind to her. It seemed hard for him to speak his dead wife's name. She is a respectable woman. Now, I have seen you, and I think she said sensible things. Play out of doors as much as you like. It's a big place. You may go where you like and amuse yourself as you like. Is there anything you want? Do you want toys and books and dolls? Might I have a bit of earth? In her eagerness, she didn't realize how queer those words would sound, and that they were not the ones she had meant to say. Mr. Craven looked quite startled. What do you mean, earth? To plant seeds in, to make things grow, see them come alive. He gazed at her a moment, and then passed his hand quickly over his eyes. Do you care about gardens so much? I didn't know about them in India. I was always ill and tired, and it was hot. I sometimes made little beds in the sand and stuck flowers in them. But here it's different. Mr. Craven got up and began to walk slowly across the room. A bit of earth. Mary thought that somehow she must have reminded him of something. When he stopped and spoke to her, his dark eyes looked almost soft and kind. You can have as much earth as you want. You remind me of someone else who loved the earth and things that grow. When you see a bit of earth you want, take it, child. Make it come alive. May I take it from anywhere, if it's not wanted? Anywhere. There, now, you must go. I'm tired. He touched the bell to call Mrs. Medlock. Goodbye. I shall be away all summer. Mrs. Medlock came so quickly that Mary thought she must have been waiting in the corridor. Mrs. Medlock, now I have seen the child, I understand what Mrs. Sowerby meant. She must be less delicate before the lessons begin. Give her simple, healthy food. Let her run wild in the garden, and don't look after her too much. She needs liberty and fresh air and romping about. She needs... Mrs. Sowerby is to come and see her now and then, and she may sometimes go to the cottage. Mrs. Medlock looked pleased. She was relieved to hear that she need not look after Mary too much. She had felt her a tiresome charge, and had, indeed, seen as little of her as she dared. In addition to this, she was fond of Martha's mother. Thank you, sir. Susan Sowerby and me went to school together. She's as sensible and good-hearted a woman as you'd find in a day's walk. I never had any children myself, and she's had 12, and there never was a healthier or better ones. Miss Mary can get no harm from them. I always take Susan Sowerby's advice about children myself. She's what you call healthy-minded, if you understand me. I understand. Take Miss Mary away now and send Pitcher to me. When Mrs. Medlock left her at the end of her own corridor, Mary flew back to her room. She found Martha waiting there. Martha had, in fact, hurried back after she'd removed the dinner service. I can have my garden. I may have it where I like. I'm not going to have a governess for a long time. Your mother's going to come and see me, and I may go to your cottage. He says a little girl like me could not do any harm, and I may do what I like, anywhere. Hey, oh, that was nice of him, wasn't it? Martha, he is a really nice man. Only his face is so miserable and his forehead is all drawn together. She ran as quickly as she could to the garden. She had been away so much longer than she had thought she would, and she knew Dickon would have to set out early on his 5-mile walk. When she slipped through the door under the ivy, she saw he was not working where she had left him. The gardening tools were laid together under a tree, and she ran to them, looking all around the place, but there was no Dickon to be seen. He'd gone away. The secret garden was empty, except for the robin, who had just flown across the wall and sat on the standard rose-bush watching her. "He's gone! Oh, was he only a wood fairy?" Something white fastened to the standard rose-bush caught her eye. It was a piece of paper. In fact, it was a piece of the letter she had printed for Martha to send to Dickon. It was fastened on the bush with a long thorn, and in a minute she knew Dickon had left it there. There were some roughly printed letters on it, and a sort of picture. At first she could not tell what it was. Then she saw it was meant for a nest with a bird sitting on it. Underneath were the printed letters, and they said, "I will come back." Mary took the picture back to the house when she went to her supper, and she showed it to Martha. "I never knew our Dickon was as clever as that. That there's a picture of a missel thrush on a nest, as large as life and twice as natural." Then Mary knew Dickon had meant the picture to be a message. He had meant that she might be sure he would keep her secret. Her garden was her nest, and she was like a missel thrush. Oh, how she did like that queer common boy! She hoped he would come back the very next day, and she fell asleep looking forward to the morning. But you never know what the weather will do in Yorkshire, particularly in the springtime. She was awakened in the night by the sound of rain beating with heavy drops against her window. It was pouring down in torrents, and the wind was wuthering around the corners and in the chimneys of the huge old house. Mary sat up in bed and felt miserable and angry. "The rain is as contrary as I ever was. It came because it knew I did not want it." She threw herself back on her pillow and buried her face. She did not cry, but she lay and hated the sound of the heavily beating rain. She hated the wind and its wuthering. She could not go to sleep again. The mournful sound kept her awake, because she felt mournful herself. If she had felt happy, it would probably have lulled her to sleep. How it wuthered, and how the big raindrops poured down and beat against the pane. "It sounds just like a person lost on the moor, and wandering on and on, crying." She had been lying awake, turning from side to side for about an hour, when suddenly something made her sit up in bed and turn her head towards the door, listening. She listened and she listened. "It isn't wind now. That isn't the wind. It's different. It is that crying I heard before." The door of her room was ajar, and the sound came down the corridor, a far-off, faint sound of fretful crying. She listened for a few minutes, and each minute she became more and more sure. She felt as if she must find out what it was. It seemed even stranger than the secret garden and the buried key. Perhaps the fact that she was in a rebellious mood made her bold. She put her foot out of bed and stood on the floor. "I am going to find out what it is. Everybody's in bed, and I don't care about Mrs. Medlock. I don't care." There was a candle by her bedside, and she took it and went softly out of the room. The corridor looked very long and dark, but she was too excited to mind that. She thought she remembered the corners she must turn to find the short corridor with a door covered with tapestry, the one Mrs. Medlock had come through the day she lost herself. The sound had come up that passage. So she went on with her dim light, almost feeling her way, her heart beating so loud that she fancied she could hear it. The far-off faint crying went on and led her. Sometimes it stopped for a moment or so, and then began again. Was this the right corner to turn? She stopped and thought. Yes, it was. Down this passage, and then to the left, and then up 2 broad steps, and then to the right again. Yes, there was the tapestry door. She pushed it open very gently and closed it behind her, and she stood in the corridor, and she could hear the crying quite plainly, though it was not as loud. It was on the other side of the wall at her left, and a few yards farther on. There was a door. She could see a glimmer of light coming from underneath it. Someone was crying in that room, and it was quite a young someone. So she walked to the door and pushed it open, and there she was standing in the room. It was a big room, with ancient handsome furniture in it. There was a low fire glowing faintly on the hearth, and a night-light burning by the side of a carved four-poster bed hung with brocade, and on the bed was lying a boy, crying pitifully. Mary wondered if she was in a real place, or if she had fallen asleep again and was dreaming without knowing it. The boy had a sharp, delicate face, the colour of ivory, and he seemed to have eyes too big for it. He also had a lot of hair, which tumbled over his forehead in heavy locks, and made his thin face seem smaller. He looked like a boy who had been ill, but he was crying more as if he were tired and cross than if he were in pain. Mary stood near the door with her candle in her hand, holding her breath. Then she crept across the room, and as she drew nearer, the light attracted the boy's attention, and he turned his head on his pillow and stared at her, his grey eyes opening so wide they seemed immense. "Who are you? Are you a ghost?" "No, I'm not." "Are you one?" He stared and stared and stared. Mary could not help noticing what strange eyes he had. They were agate grey, and looked too big for his face because they had black lashes all round them. "No," he replied after waiting a moment or so. "I am Colin." "Who is Colin?" "I am Colin Craven. Who are you?" "I am Mary Lennox. Mr. Craven is my uncle." "He is my father." "Your father? No one ever told me he had a boy. Why didn't they tell me?" "Come here," he said, still keeping his strange eyes fixed on her with an anxious expression. She came close to the bed, and he put out his hand and touched her. "You are real, aren't you? I have such real dreams very often. You might be one of them." Mary had slipped on a woolen wrapper before she left her room, and she put a piece of it between his fingers. "Rub that. See how thick and warm it is? I will pinch you a little if you like, to show you how real I am. For a minute I thought you might be a dream too." "Where did you come from?" "From my own room. The wind wuthered, so I couldn't go to sleep, and I heard someone crying, and I wanted to find out who it is." "What were you crying for?" "Because I couldn't go to sleep either, and my head ached. Tell me your name again." "Mary Lennox. Did no one ever tell you I'd come to live here?" He was still fingering the fold of her wrapper, but he began to look a little more now as if he believed in her reality. "No, they daren't." "Why?" "Because I should have been afraid you would see me, and I won't let people see me and talk me over." "Why?" Mary asked again, feeling more mystified every moment. "Because I'm like this always, ill and having to lie down. My father won't let people talk me over either. The servants are not allowed to speak about me. If I live, I may be a hunchback, but I shan't live. My father hates to think I may be like him." "What a queer house. Everything is kind of secret. Rooms locked up, gardens locked up, and you. Have you been locked up?" "No. I stay in this room because I don't want to be moved out of it. It tires me too much." "Does your father come and see you?" "Sometimes. Generally when I'm asleep. He doesn't want to see me." "Why?" "My mother died when I was born, and it makes him wretched to look at me. He thinks I don't know, but I've heard people talking. He almost hates me." "He hates the garden because she died." "What garden?" "Oh, just a garden she used to like. Have you been here always?" "Nearly always. Sometimes I've been taken to places at the seaside, but I won't stay because people stare at me. I used to wear an iron thing to keep my back straight, but a grand doctor came from London and said it was stupid. He told him to take it off and keep me out in the fresh air. I hate fresh air. I don't want to go out." "I didn't when I first came here. Why do you keep looking at me like that?" "Because of the dreams that are so real. Sometimes when I open my eyes I don't believe I'm awake." "Well, we're both awake." She glanced round the room with its high ceiling and shadowy corners and dim firelight. "It looks like a dream. And it's the middle of the night, and everybody in the house is asleep. Everybody but us. We are wide awake." "I don't want it to be a dream. If you don't like people to see you, do you want me to go away?" He still held the fold of her wrapper, and he gave it a little pull. "No, I should be sure you were a dream if you went. If you're real, sit down on that big footstool and talk. I want to hear about you." Mary put down her candle on the table near the bed and sat down on the cushioned stool. She did not want to go away at all. She wanted to stay in the mysterious hidden-away room and talk to the mysterious boy. "What do you want me to tell you?" He wanted to know how long she'd been at Misselthwaite. He wanted to know which corridor her room was on. He wanted to know what she had been doing, if she disliked the moor as he disliked it, where she had lived before she came to Yorkshire. She answered all these questions and many more, and he lay back on his pillow and listened. He made her tell him a great deal about India and about her voyage across the ocean. She found out that because he had been an invalid, he had not learned things as other children had. One of his nurses had taught him to read when he was quite little, and he was always reading and looking at pictures in splendid books. Though his father rarely saw him when he was awake, he was given all sorts of wonderful things to amuse himself with. He never seemed to have been amused, however. He could have anything he asked for, and was never made to do anything he did not like to do. "Everyone is obliged to do what pleases me. It makes me ill to be angry. No one believes I shall live to grow up." He said it as if he was so accustomed to the idea that it had ceased to matter to him at all. He seemed to like the sound of Mary's voice. As she went on talking, he listened in a drowsy, interested way. Once or twice she wondered if he was not gradually falling into a doze, but at last he asked a question which opened up a new subject. "How old are you?" "I'm 10, answered Mary, forgetting herself for a moment. "And so are you." "How do you know that?" "Because when you were born, the garden door was locked and the key was buried, and it has been locked for 10 years. Colin half sat up, turning towards her, leaning on his elbows. "What garden door was locked? Who did it? Where was the key buried?" It was the garden Mr. Craven hates. He locked the door. No one knew where he buried the key." "What sort of garden is it?" "No one's been allowed to go into it for 10 years, was Mary's careful answer. But it was too late to be careful. He was too much like herself. He too had had nothing to think about, and the idea of a hidden garden attracted him as it had attracted her. He asked question after question. Where was it? Had she never looked for the door? Had she never asked the gardeners? "They won't talk about it. I think they've been told not to answer questions." "I wouldn't make them." "Could you?" Mary faltered, beginning to feel frightened. If he could make people answer questions, who knew what might happen? "Everyone's obliged to please me, I told you that. If I were to live, this place would sometime belong to me. They all know that. I would make them tell me." Mary had not known that she herself had been spoiled, but she could see quite plainly that this mysterious boy had. He thought that the whole world belonged to him. How peculiar he was, and how coolly he spoke of not living. "Don't you want to live?" she asked, partly because she was curious, and partly in the hope of making him forget the garden. "I don't suppose I shall. Ever since I remember anything, I've heard people say I shan't. At first they thought I was too little to understand, and now they think I don't hear. But I do. The doctor's my father's cousin. He's quite poor. If I die, he'll have all Misselthwaite when my father's dead. I should think he wouldn't want me to live." "Do you want to live?" "No. But I don't want to die. When I feel ill, I lie here and I think about it until I cry and cry." "I've heard you crying 3 times, but I didn't know who it was. Were you crying about that?" She did so want him to forget the garden. "I dare say. Let's talk about something else. Talk about that garden. Don't you want to see it?" "Yes, I do. I don't think I ever really wanted to see anything before, but I want to see that garden. I want the key dug up. I want the door unlocked. I'd let them take me out there in my chair. That would be getting fresh air. I'm going to make them open that door." He'd become quite excited, and his strange eyes began to shine like stars, and looked more immense than ever. "They have to please me. I will make them take me there, and I will let you go too." Mary's hands clutched each other. Everything would be spoiled, everything. Dickon would never come back. She would never again feel like a missel thrush with a safe hidden nest. "Oh, don't do that." "Why? You said you wanted to see it." "I do. But if you make them open the door and take you in like that, it won't be a secret again." A secret? What do you mean? Tell me. You see, if no one knows about it but ourselves, if there was a door hidden somewhere under the ivy, if there was, and we could find it, and if we could slip through it together and shut it behind us, and no one knew anyone was inside, and we called it our garden and pretended that we were missel thrushes and it was our nest, and if we played there almost every day and dug and planted seeds and made it all come alive. Is it dead? It soon will be if no one cares for it. The bulbs will live, but the roses... What are bulbs? They're daffodils and lilies and snowdrops. They're working in the earth now, pushing up pale green points because the spring is coming. Is the spring coming? What's it like? You don't see it in rooms if you're ill. Well, it's the sun shining on the rain, and the rain falling on the sunshine, and things pushing up and working under the earth. If the garden was a secret and we could get into it, we could watch things grow bigger every day and see how many roses are alive. Oh, don't you see how much nicer it would be if it was a secret? I never had a secret. He dropped back on his pillow and lay there with an odd expression on his face. Except that one about not living to grow up. And they don't know I know that, so it's a sort of secret. But I like this kind better. If you won't make them take you to the garden, perhaps I feel almost sure I can find out how to get in sometime, and then if the doctor wants you to go out in your chair, and if you can always do what you want to do, perhaps we might find some boy who would push you, and we could go alone, and it would always be a secret garden. I should like that. I should not mind fresh air in a secret garden. Mary began to recover her breath and feel safer, because the idea of keeping the secret seemed to please him. She felt almost sure that if she kept on talking and could make him see the garden in his mind as she had seen it, he would like it so much that he would not bear to think that anybody might tramp into it when they chose. I'll tell you what I think it would be like if you could go into it. It's been shut up so long, things have grown into a tangle, perhaps. He lay quite still and listened while she went on talking about the roses which might have clambered from tree to tree and hung down, about the many birds which might have built their nests there because it was so safe. And then she told him about the robin and Ben Weatherstaff, and there was so much to tell him about the robin, and it was so easy and safe to talk about it, that she ceased to feel afraid. The robin pleased him so much that he smiled until he looked almost beautiful. I didn't know birds could be like that. But if you stay in a room, you never see things. What a lot of things you know. I feel as if you've been inside that garden. She didn't know what to say, or she did not say anything. He evidently did not expect an answer, and the next moment he gave her a surprise. I'm going to let you look at something. Do you see that rose-coloured silk curtain hanging on the wall over the mantelpiece? Mary had not noticed it before, but she looked up and saw it. It was a curtain of soft silk hanging over what seemed to be a picture. Yes, there's a cord hanging from it. Go and pull it. Mary got up, much mystified, and found the cord. When she pulled it, the silk curtain ran back on rings, and when it ran back, it uncovered a picture. It was the picture of a girl with a laughing face. She had bright hair tied up with a blue ribbon, and her gay, lovely eyes were exactly like Colin's unhappy ones, agate grey, and looking twice as big as they really were, because of the black lashes all round them. She's my mother. I don't see why she died. Sometimes I hate her for doing it. How queer. If she'd lived, I believe I should not have been ill always. I dare say I should have lived too, and my father would not have hated to look at me. I dare say I should have had a strong back. Draw the curtain again. Mary did so, and returned to the footstool. She's much prettier than you, but her eyes are just like yours, or at least they're the same shape and colour. Why is the curtain drawn over her? He moved uncomfortably. I made them do it. Sometimes I don't like to see her looking at me. She smiles too much when I'm ill and miserable. Besides, she is mine. I don't want everyone to see her. There were a few moments of silence, and then Mary spoke. What would Mrs. Medlock do if she found out that I had been here? She would do as I told her to do, and I should tell her that I wanted you to come here and talk to me every day. I'm glad you came. So am I. I will come as often as I can, but I shall have to look every day for the garden door. Yes, you must, and you can tell me about it afterwards. He lay thinking a few minutes, as he had done before, and then he spoke again. "I think you shall be a secret too. I'll not tell them until they find out. I can always send the nurse out of a room and say I want to be by myself. Do you know Martha?" "Yes, I know her very well. She waits on me." "She's the one who's asleep in the other room. The nurse went away yesterday to stay all night with her sister, and she always makes Martha attend me when she wants to go out. Martha shall tell you when to come here." Then Mary understood Martha's troubled look when she'd asked questions about the crying. "Martha knew about you all the time?" "Yes, she often attends to me. The nurse likes to get away from me, and then Martha comes." "I've been here a long time. Shall I go away now? Your eyes look sleepy." "I wish I could go to sleep before you leave me," he said, rather shyly. "Shut your eyes," said Mary, drawing her footstool closer, "and I will do what my ayah used to do in India. I will pat your hand and stroke it and sing something quite low." "I should like that, perhaps." Somehow she was sorry for him, and did not want him to lie awake. So she leaned against the bed and began to stroke and pat his hand, and sing a very low little chanting song in Hindustani. "That is nice," he said, more drowsily still. And she went on chanting and stroking. But when she looked at him again, his black lashes were lying close against his cheeks, for his eyes were shut, and he was fast asleep. She got up softly, took her candle, and crept away without making a sound.